Man is a predator species. To deny that reality is to move forward from a false understanding of human nature. We possess all the physical traits of a predator. All of our earliest tools were weapons. We long for civility, but few have been set free through discourse alone. And the harsh reality is that history is written in iron and blood. According to Oxford Languages, the word war comes from the Old English wera, which is from the Norman wera, derived from the Frankish wera, itself derived from the Proto-Germanic werza, which in turn comes from the Proto-Indo-European werus. The cognates or linguistic roots of this term mean to bring into confusion. War is the embodiment of chaos. Defining what makes a conflict a war can be confusing, and discussions about how we rationalize participating in them can be chaotic. So what is war, and why do we engage in it? The Oxford Dictionary describes war as a state of armed conflict between nations or states, or groups within a nation or state. Karl von Clausewitz famously described war as an extension of politics by other means. And according to Oxford Languages, the word politics comes from the ancient Greek politikos, meaning of citizens, because polities were citizens of a city or a polis, therefore pertaining to the state and its administration. But is war exclusively conflict between nations or states, or even groups within a nation or state? Clausewitz goes on, less famously, but much more insightfully, to describe war as a clash between major interests, which is resolved by bloodshed, as that is the only way in which it differs from other conflicts. What is of importance here are the terms major interests, bloodshed, and conflicts. Of course, we all know what Clausewitz meant by bloodshed. A conflict must be lethal or portend to lethality to be considered a war. Conflict, according to Oxford, means to be in opposition, to be contrary or at variance, to contend, to fight, to struggle. It is from the Latin conflictus, a past participle of confligere, meaning to strike together. But it can also be defined, as it has been since the 16th century, as an internal, mental, or spiritual struggle. And at the core of this internal conflict is the struggle with one's own self-identity. Who are you? Why are you here? What is it that makes you, you? Each one of us is a unique being, alone. Our first, most basic instinct, from which all of our impulses are derived, is to survive, both as an individual and as a species. Of course, humans are pretty helpless, so we evolved to be a social species. There is safety in numbers, so we operate in groups. But who gets to be in the group? Well, historically, or should I say prehistorically, everything that wasn't like us tried to kill us. So rule number one, you had to be a human, or a good-looking Neanderthal. As these groups spread about the planet, they were exposed to differing environments to which they adapted genetically, giving each group unique physical features. They developed unique cultures and religious beliefs. These ancient tribes often referred to themselves by terms that meant the people. Outsiders, being unlike them, were therefore not the people. Thus, these physical, cultural, and religious characteristics came to define our ancestors' group identities. And though culture and religion are usually defined by when and where you are born, and though race is nothing more than ancestral adaptation, humans cling to these group identities, sometimes creating nation-states around them, as a means of ensuring group and, therefore, individual survival. By major interests, Clausewitz was referring to these group identities. Individuals within a group see individuals in other groups as not like them, and therefore potentially a threat in some way. Their group identities then solidify as a form of validation. In a microcosm, we see this identity impulse even in street gangs and sports fans. Conflicts inevitably arise between these major interests over territory or resources or influence or even a fear of being displaced. More commonly, it is a mixture of all of these factors. Thus, the survival instinct itself creates individual and group identities, which in turn must be defended by harsh words, or sticks and stones, or even global thermonuclear war, which ironically would mean that both the group identities and the individuals therein would have failed at their primary mission, which is to survive. Ronald Reagan famously mused about what would happen if Earth faced a threat from outer space, and how it would likely unite the human species. We would need to band together to survive. There are billions of stars out there, and trillions of planets. And as we fill in more of Drake's equation, it is becoming increasingly likely that we are not alone. And whomever we encounter will be beyond the Great Filter, which may well be this impulse towards self-destruction. The reality is that, given Earth's history and our own place at the top of the planetary food chain, it is likely that most of the dominant life forms on other planets with technology to lead them are also social predators just like us. And we know that intelligence and benignancy are not connected. And we can safely presume that they too would be driven by this individual and therefore group impulse to survive. And it may well have been a similar external threat that united their species against every species that isn't them. Like us, for example. This threat too, if or when it occurs, may also be what saves us from ourselves. Be sure to check out my military history books, The Division and Islands of Steel, available on Amazon. Please like and subscribe and share this video with your friends. Is there a battle or conflict or aspect of warfare that you'd like me to cover? Leave a comment below. I'm Timothy Wayne Burford, and this is War.